Amon, you always burned so bright, bright enough to blind. Your rectitude was nothing but torture to me. But I realized I can't spout pretty words about justice like you can. I won't take back the crimes I've committed. Seidou Takizawa died in that prison. I can no longer walk the straight and narrow path. If I could, I'd want to turn back time. I too want to be like you, but now that's never going to happen. I'm just a loose cannon, bit different than a ticking time bomb. Just one thing, that's all. This above all else, something like that. The one thing that holds everything else in place, and I'll see it through to the end. Seidou Takizawa for me has always been an interesting character. From the first time he appeared on screen when I saw the anime, I was mysteriously fascinated by him and really excited for what he would bring and what he would represent as a character, and when I bared witness to his abrupt, very sudden, surprising change in Tokyo Ghoul, I was hooked, and he instantly became one of my personal favorite Tokyo Ghoul characters. The anime, of course, known by and accepted by many, myself included, was a horrible adaptation of the manga, and although I loved Takizawa in the anime, it just didn't give me the kind of finishing touch I was hoping to get for him. He just felt like wasted potential in the anime and lacking a more throughout conclusion. Almost a year passed after me watching the Tokyo Ghoul anime, and I finally got to reading and completing the manga, just recently in fact, with it being my personal favorite, and I got what I wanted. Takizawa in the manga felt much more alive, explored to a greater extent, and had that character conclusion I was hoping for, even with it being a little bittersweet. Tokyo Ghoul is a series that hosts an amazing cast of characters, and I feel like Takizawa is the most overlooked and underrated of the lot. You could argue that Uryu or Kori-ui could be less popular than the rest, but for me, Seidou Takizawa will always be the Tokyo Ghoul character who I believe is the most underrated. In today's video, I hope to explore Seidou, looking at him and what makes him so great, and finally shedding light on the overlooked Calamity, Seidou Takizawa. Spoilers for the manga, and I hope you enjoy. Our first introduction to Seidou Takizawa is a pleasant one. He is introduced as a very upstanding individual who takes his job as a ghoul investigator very seriously. He respects his senior investigators, having deep respect for both Kotaro Amon and Kisho Arima, looking up to them in deep admiration and respect. He remains very scarce with little to no screen time during the later chapters subsequent to his introduction, but we are given more insight to what he really is like deep down during the events after the raid on Dr. Kano's lab. The truth was that deep down, Takizawa had an inferiority complex. He felt a deep desire to be praised and looked up with respect by the same people he had admired, and in his mind that was taken away from him by his former academy classmate, Akira Mado. She managed to graduate first in every single subject, leaving Takizawa to be left behind, always achieving nothing but second place. Akira even went on to be praised by Kisho Arima and become Kotaro Amon's partner, which was really a stab in the back for Takizawa. She had been getting all the praise he had wanted for so long, and it made him hold deep feelings of resentment and jealousy towards Akira because she had what he just couldn't obtain, no matter how hard he tried, and was the reason he had always come in second place. A moment that really characterized Takizawa well and made me appreciate him a whole lot more was when Takizawa, before the big owl suppression operation, went home to visit his parents and was due to write his will if he ever died during the course of the mission. But Takizawa just couldn't write it. He tried his best to write something but just wrote the words "I don't want to die" over the testament. This moment, although not nearly as exciting as others, characterizes Takizawa really well. He wants to be this well-respected, incredible ghoul investigator with a strong sense of justice, but he just can't put his life on the line like the people he admires do. Why? Because he's human. It wasn't until the end of the owl suppression that Takizawa did something. Kotaro Amon was missing and something seemed off. Takizawa for once didn't want to be helpless but take matters into his own hands because he was a ghoul investigator. Takizawa rushed off from his squad to look for Amon, not giving them a chance to stop him. Takizawa found Amon in a bad condition and begged him not to die, but Amon reassured him that that wouldn't be the case because that would make Kaneki a murderer. Another squad happened to pass by and asked for medical assistance to help Amon, but they were ambushed by Tatara and the other members of the Aogiri tree. Takizawa watched in horror as the squad was slaughtered right in front of his eyes. He couldn't move and froze up watching all of his comrades dying. Amon stood up and told Takizawa to run, and that he'd hold off the Aogiri ghouls. Takizawa disagreed, but he was still overcome with fear and despair. Even despite death closing in on him, Takizawa found the courage to fight and took a stand because he was a ghoul investigator. He was Seidou Takizawa of the CCG. Tatara realizes that Takizawa's Kagune belonged to a former friend of his. He charged at him and demanded to know if he was one of Hoji's men and if they had a ghoul named Yan in custody, but Takizawa screamed in agony for Tatara to let go of him. In response, Tatara threw Takizawa into the air and had Noro tear off his left arm. Seidou Takizawa and Kotaro Amon's bodies were never recovered by the CCG. The beauty of this moment at the end of the Owl suppression is that it shows us even if Takizawa is trapped in despair and literally waiting of fear, he'll still fight because he is a ghoul investigator. This moment may as well be the closest we've been to seeing Takizawa's true nature. Maybe with enough time and more nurture, Takizawa probably would have been an excellent investigator who could talk about justice just like Amon and look at Akira as an equal. But sadly, that will never happen, as Seidou Takizawa died soon after being taken in as an experimental subject by Aogiri. I really admire how Sui Ishida reintroduced Seidou Takizawa during the auction arc in Tokyo Ghoul Re. We are given no insight to what happened to him, where he was these past 2 years, and what changed him. All we are introduced to is a complete monster, the true incarnation of a ghoul with a nihilistic approach towards human life, seeing them as nothing but food. Seidou Takizawa is a monster, and no more the lively, upstanding ghoul investigator we once knew. But even if Takizawa tries to escape his past and completely transgress into a ghoul, he can't. It's futile. Throughout his fight with Kaneki, we see that even if his appearance is different, even if he is a murderer, and even if he is a ghoul, Seidou Takizawa still remains the same at heart. Even if it is shown just a little, his object of jealousy is shifted from Akira to Kaneki. He now sees Kaneki as a rival and someone to surpass because Kaneki is Dr. Kano's masterpiece and he needs to beat him to garner the praise he desires. He also still deep down holds lots of respect for his senior Hoji, as he tells Kaneki that his boss was too also a good man who cared about his subordinates above all else. He also told Kaneki about how no investigator came to help him and that he was just being used and thrown out by the CCG and that they'd do the same to him. Even if he tries to, Takizawa can't escape his past. He has to face it. This was further emphasized when he activated his Kakuja and rambled on about how he ate his parents and how sorry he was. At the end of the battle, he and Akira got a glimpse at each other, greeting her and then hiding his face before fleeing. Although Seidou Takizawa was now almost a different person and a nihilistic ghoul who had no problem with killing, bits of his past self still showed. His habits of wanting praise and his jealousy towards others for getting that praise he desired was still there. This arc really gave Takizawa a great reintroduction as this monster who would later on have to face his past and come to terms with himself. That really interested me and I was very excited for the direction Ishida would take with Takizawa's character. In the Rushima arc, Takizawa's former boss and someone he deep down still respected, Hoji, came to the Aogiri hideout to wipe out Tatara once and for all. Hoji and his men were fighting a losing battle, and things seemed grim, until the fallen investigator made his appearance. Seidou Takizawa came to save the day and show everyone that he too could be a hero as he killed Tatara and took revenge on him for hurting him that night, all in the attempt to show his senior just how strong he had become. This moment came as a huge shocker to me as it revealed Takizawa's true nature. Deep down, he was still the same ghoul investigator who wanted praise from Hoji. He could try to indulge in ghoul activities and pretend to have left the past behind, but Seidou was still the boy who wanted his senior to acknowledge his skills and who wanted to be a hero just like Amon. But that wouldn't be the case for Takizawa. When he tried to celebrate killing Tatara with Hoji, Akira, and the rest of the investigators there, they did not accept him. Hoji ordered them to kill him. Takizawa was enraged and felt betrayed. The one person he respected most and who kept him going this whole time denied him what he wanted most and betrayed him. Confused and broken, Takizawa attacked all of the investigators, going mad, killing all of them and beheading Hoji. In the aftermath, he held Akira up, choking her, telling her that he wanted them to accept him and praise him as a hero for defeating Totoro with tears in his eyes. Akira disagreed with him and believed Hoji was right in his choice to kill him. He increased his grip on her, and as he was about to kill her, his former comrade, one of his few friends, made their entrance. Kotaro Amon had come to save Seidou Takizawa. Takizawa completely overpowered Amon. Amon asked him if he's going to keep telling himself that he was a ghoul. It was true that he sinned, killed many people, and done unforgivable things, but still, Amon knew his weakness, knew his courage, and he knew that he wasn't a ghoul, but a ghoul investigator. Takizawa broke down and went insane against Amon. I think in this moment Takizawa's past finally caught up with him. He kept telling himself that he was a ghoul to justify his actions, but when Amon told him what he was, he realized all the wrong he had caused and how nothing could justify the acts he performed. He remembered how he strove for justice, and he remembered what he wanted to be. I'm sure before breaking down, Takizawa thought to himself, how did it all come to this? I truly love how Amon wanted Takizawa to repent by living instead of dying, contrary to what the rest of the CCG thought. After engaging with Toru Mutsuki in battle, being pushed to the brink and defeated, Seidou's death was upon him as Mutsuki's Kagune was about to stab him. Akira jumped in between it to save Takizawa. Takizawa was shocked. Why would the person who believed him to atone by dying save him? Why would she risk everything for him? Akira told him that she thought about it over and over, even until today. She thought about what would have happened if she had stopped Takizawa that night and saved him from becoming a ghoul, indirectly apologizing for not saving him. Seidou had finally come back to his senses and regained his humanity and reasoning. He trusted Amon to stay alive and accepted Amon's trust as he escaped with Akira. Seidou Takizawa had finally came back to his senses. Takizawa later on joined Kaneki's group GOAT, and with Akira in a bad state, he offered his help to get the RC suppressants to save her. With Kaneki wanting to save Amon when they found him in the lab but unable to do as he had to move quickly, Takizawa offered to save Amon instead, and along with Corona they began to fight Amon in an attempt to bring him back with them. This fight is one of my favorites in the entirety of the Tokyo Ghoul series, as it really fleshes out Amon and Takizawa's dynamic, giving Takizawa excellent characterization. During the course of the fight, Takizawa reflects on his true feelings, and what he went through after that night 2 years ago is finally brought to life. Takizawa was the only successful artificial ghoul, and in an attempt to create a new Kaneki, Dr. Kondo tortured Takizawa endlessly for 2 whole years, to a much more extreme extent than what Kaneki had gone through at the hands of Jason. Amon had asked Takizawa to not give up and get out of that place while they were together in the prison, but he couldn't. He wasn't a hero like Amon, and his sense of justice died in that cell, along with the Seidou Takizawa, Amon, Akira, Hoji, and us readers knew. It was too late for him. But still, even if his sense of justice had died, and even if he couldn't become heroes like Kaneki and Amon, he wanted to see something through to the end. Takizawa knew what Amon had been through, and he wanted to bring him home. Amon had tried to remind him that he was an investigator, but he is the Owl and he is a ghoul now. He decided how he wanted to live. He doesn't have the option of being righteous anymore, so he has to be desperate. He's going to choose one thing and stick to it. His life has gone to shit, so now all he can do is live for somebody else. Akira should be happy. Takizawa brought Amon home for her. This fight was incredible. The characterization for Takizawa was just brilliant, and him deciding to live for Amon and Mado, paying them back, was excellent. Seidou couldn't be righteous like Kaneki, and he couldn't talk about justice like Amon. He could only admire them and help them out where he could. That is the ghoul known as the Owl, Seidou Takizawa. After saving Amon, Takizawa had a talk with Kaneki. He told him that he didn't save Amon because Kaneki told him to, and that he had done his part. He's just going to live a normal ghoul life from now on. He also thought that Kaneki was similar to him, as they both had no other option but to live for others. Takizawa and Kaneki were both empty. That's why they'd die if they weren't chained down. Takizawa finally for a little while reappeared at the end of the Dragon War arc, watching Amon fight Donato along with Yumitsu. He remarked that he had something to return to Amon, that being his necklace. Takizawa said that Amon couldn't beat Donato because if he did, he'd be nothing but an empty shell. Clinging to something for so long only to lose it will leave you with nothing but emptiness. Takizawa had faced that reality straight on before too. He hadn't realized it at first, but he knew Investigator Hoji would never lose him. He let Takizawa kill him, and after losing what he clung to for so long, Takizawa was left with nothing but a wallowing emptiness that needed to be filled by living for others. In the end, Seidou returned the necklace and asked Amon the question why he still wore that necklace, reminding Amon and motivating him to defeat Donato. Takizawa's whereabouts after the Dragon War are unknown, but I'm sure he continued to live his normal cool life in peace, knowing that he helped Amon, Akira, and even Kaneki till the very end. Seidou Takizawa is truly an amazing character. He is this boy who wants to be heroic and strong but still fears death like any human would. He represents the investigator who can't get past their fears and ends up dying, and as a ghoul he becomes this nihilistic monster, but that's only a front and a way of escapism to cover up his horrible actions. Seidou Takizawa embodies the boy who just couldn't move past his fears and become a hero. He always wanted to be acknowledged because of his doubts in himself, which led him to be jealous of others who achieved more than him, wanting to beat them no matter what, and be recognized as the superior person. After losing the hope he clung to for so long, Takizawa decided to live for others and found meaning in helping them, realizing he could move forward and live knowing he had helped others. Although this was never directly stated, Seidou Takizawa may have found meaning in helping others, moving past wanting praise and instead being fine with living knowing he made a change. That is the excellence of Seidou Takizawa, the tragic calamity everyone seems to overlook. That, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know what you thought of the video down below in the comments, as this is my first ever character analysis. Let me know if you want more of these, as I really enjoyed making this video, and if you are new here, I highly suggest you consider subscribing, as it gives me motivation to continue my passion of making manga related videos. The link to the Discord server is in the description if you ever want to get in touch with me. This is going to be me signing off. Stay safe and remember to leap into space. I'm out. Peace!